Hello and welcome again, guys. You have joined us here on the long-awaited return of the MLS UK Banter Pod, and that is with me at Danny B90, the Banter Messiah, and that guy over there at Guitar Spoons, the Banter King, John Parker. How are you, John?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has been far, far, far too long. I can't even remember the last time we were here doing this, so it's all good. It's good to be back.
Oh, it's just great to hear your voice again, John.
Oh, thanks, buddy. It's good to hear yours as well.
People on the outside don't realise we don't actually speak until we do a podcast. So, this is catch-up time for us. Oh, God, I didn't want to actually put it out there, but yeah, we really don't like each other.
Oh, was this a big press conspiracy? Yeah, no, we're fine. We get on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. We don't. I mean, there's no real issues. Apart from the ones that we hate each other. But everyone.
It's kind of a bit like John Terry and Wayne Bridge, I think.
A little bit of that, or John Terry and any other human being.
I wasn't going to say anything, but court case and all that.
Yeah,
in trouble.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get done for being liable. But John Terry is a massive. I can't even say the word. I can't get away with it. The word I was going to use definitely can't be used on our podcast.
Definitely.
He's a very good defender. That's about the only praise I can give to that man. But on the other hand, the rest of his family are really damn, no, they're not either. Anyway. Let's move swiftly on. The moral of that story is me and John hate each other. So we'll move on there. But John, it's been, as we say, it's been a long time. It's probably been about 3 months since we actually did one of these before.
Something ridiculous like that. The MLS community has probably forgotten all about us.
When we were last speaking to you, Revs were rubbish. How's that changed for you, buddy?
Oh my God, like you wouldn't believe. Maybe we should stop doing these, Dan, because we've been explosive since we last did one of these. When I was on my knees praying for something good to come of the Revs, suddenly out of nowhere they signed Lee Win, and the world is just right and beautiful, and I feel like I wake up on every day for a reason now instead of just crying. It's wonderful. No, it's
You're still crying, but just for different reasons now.
Just for different reasons, really. It's our continuing feud that upsets me now, not the Revs. But no, it's good. It's good. Unfortunately, we had to settle for nothing against Columbus, and nobody got the bragging rights there, so that was a bit bleak. But other than that, we're all good, mate. We're all good. What about Columbus? How are you feeling in regards to that?
Well, I'm feeling about the same as I always do. When we were speaking last, whenever the hell that was, I was probably feeling the same. In the fact that we're just so inconsistent. We go out against Chicago and lose 2-1. Then we go out against Real Salt Lake, who are supposedly a better team, really, on previous form and stuff, and we go and thump them 2-0 quite comfortably. And then we go out to Canada, play against Montreal, and play one of the worst games of football I think I've watched since supporting MLS. It was shocking, and you don't know what to do. We're actually level on points with Revs now with a game in hand, so that's how bad it is.
It's crazy times.
Exactly.
Things are turning on their heads. Exactly.
It's a little bit disappointing because normally I can just give you loads of abuse because Revs are always bottom, but the thing we can always think though is at least we're not Toronto fans. Because,
at least we're not from TFC.
Because that would be. And that's not just me saying that as a Crew fan, because, Crew fans hate Toronto. That's just because Toronto are rubbish.
They are having an appalling season. I do feel bad because there is no one here to stick up for them.
I know, but there's even someone from Toronto can't stick up for Toronto. I don't know what's going on there. They've not got bad players. They're just...
Having said that, they have now, they got rid of the bad blood, the bad management. They brought in Paul Mariner, Ipswich Town legend. And
so they're destined for good things now.
For Toronto now, I feel.
How many wins have they got this season? It's like 1.
I think they've got 2 now. I believe they've got 2.
To get this far, having played, 18 games now. Toronto have played 17 games and only won twice. They've lost 11 and drawn 4. Lost 11 games. Although, in fairness,
I
Montreal
think
have always
most
scored.
of those 11 were before Paul Mariner as well, so it's just...
Yeah, no, that's...
It does go to show the impact he is having there, which is good, but they have had an absolutely shocking season. But as a Revs fan, I can't really bemoan them too much, because I know exactly how that felt this time last season.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, this. I'm just looking at the table in front of me. It's funny how odd it is at the moment with games played, because some teams are on 18 games played, some teams are on 17. Columbus Crew are on 16. Montreal Impact are on 20. Philadelphia Union are on 16. So it's like, how does this team get so unbalanced? It's the most random odd weeks, which does really heavily impact your fantasy football. It's
it does. It
really
does. You're
difficult.
trying to organise your fantasy team,
and then half your players aren't playing. It's like you've only got one transfer you can make. Very frustrating.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I think I had 1 week and they took the first game. I think we were playing 2 or 3 games, and one of my fantasy players had a really bad game in the first game of the week, but they just took the result of that game, and I just, oh dear, yeah, it's just a bit of a shocker with fantasy involved.
Yeah, it is very.
Not happy about it at all, but there you go. But how are you feeling about the playoffs right now, Dan? How are you feeling shaping up for that?
I don't know really. I think it's a bit early yet to be talking playoffs. I reckon.
In terms of the league, who do you think is gonna get there comfortably? Do you think there'll be any upsets between now and the playoffs?
I don't know. I think Galaxy might pull their stuff together.
Do you think they'll get back? Because I think they're probably the biggest talking point.
They are.
Really, in MLS,
bizarre, isn't it? How can you pay that many people that much money? I mean,
still be rubbish
and still be awful. You can, it's really bizarre. Like, I mean, they've as I say, I've got the stats up. I'm just gonna pretend I've not. Yeah, so I'm just off the top of my head. They've played around 19, won 7, lost 10, and tied 2. So, I mean, they've obviously played more games than Toronto, and they've only lost 1 less. So, us mocking Toronto for losing 11 doesn't actually sound that bad when LA Galaxy have lost 10.
When you think, of the huge gulf in paychecks that they're each distributing each month.
Although, did you in the time that we were off air, I'm going to say, did you see the publication of the highest spending and clubs and stuff of all time, and it's like it had basically it was a massive list of how our annual wage budgets and stuff for clubs, and like top was Barcelona with some ridiculous amount of millions of how much they spend on players, and the very bottom club was Columbus Crew.
The very bottom?
Very bottom of all the teams that they had in that. So it was all had all American sports, it had all Indian Premier League cricketers and all that sort of thing. And the very bottom, very last club was Columbus Crew with a wage bill of £10.50. It was brilliant.
And that was mostly to Duncan Out.
Yeah, that's Duncan Out's fee for doing everything at the club. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one, but so it's just so funny that, I mean, within the whole league, it's even, as we all sort of say when you're trying to sell the league to somebody, or not trying to sell necessarily, but when you're talking up the league to somebody, you say the thing is it's really even and it's really competitive the whole time. And it's bizarre that competition can still stem with such massive gulps in pay, with a salary cap that really doesn't mean much. Because you look at LA Galaxy and you look at New York Red Bulls, and they're spending ridiculous amounts of money on someone like Omri and Beckham and, all these players. And it's bizarre that with such difference in budgets and that sort of thing, you can still be, that much better than somebody and that much worse without, with spending loads of money.
Well, I mean, this is something I was discussing in my new article. Obviously, Revs having played New York Red Bulls at the weekend, and the impact of them losing Thierry Henry was just phenomenal. They lose this guy who's basically won them everything in a season, and they go back to having players on a standard wage, and they're actually pretty awful. But it's this one guy, these 1 or 2 guys who come in with a bit of money, and they make the team a lot better. And obviously, some teams can't afford to make those changes. But obviously, you've got teams like LA Galaxy who essentially, and I mean, I'm not trying to put off what they did last year, but I mean, they basically bought the cup, really, didn't they? Essentially,
Yeah.
And yet, you've got smaller teams. You've got, well, I wouldn't say smaller teams, but you've got teams like Columbus Crew who aren't paying ridiculous wages. And you've got teams like Toronto who can't afford to do the same thing. And they're good teams, and they're good fans, and they're well run. But unless you pour those millions in and you sign Lionel Messi when he gets to 42 years old,
I think Messi's still going to be amazing at 42. It's going to be like 50 by the time Messi's bad, and then he'll come to America.
I think it'll be on his deathbed before he can't outplay everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
But I can see that he's the kind of player who say, right, I'm not going to play for Barcelona anymore. I can't keep up with it. What shall I do? I'll retire in the sun. I'll earn millions. I'll go to America. I'll chill out in Los Angeles, and I'll earn a ridiculous amount of money. And that's the kind of thing that can happen. And teams in MLS now, I find, really need to start splashing that money on these big players to get the advertising and branding in and get fans interested, and to B, because they do add an edge to the team, no matter what you say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to credit to New York, for the first bit after losing Henry, they actually carried on doing quite well, and then it started to sort of falter a little bit. But I mean, at first they still played fairly well and were winning games, and even without Henry, which was bizarre. But Henry apparently is infallible, and it doesn't matter whether he plays or not, he still manages to get into the teams, which we'll come to talk about later. But but yeah, I'm gonna bring it back round to what we actually do in our website. How have you we've got a lot of writers now and a lot of people and a big staff. Two pokey blokes from Britain have got a staff, John.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, it's great. It's a shame we hate all those as well, really.
I just
especially that Scottish bloke. Oh, jeez.
Oh, that Scottish guy who just goes on holiday. Yeah.
No.
Oh, he's just terrible, isn't he?
He is awful.
But I do love how MLS UK has just become almost. It's kind of, we just kind of point it in a direction, and it's just become a community that just evolves on its own. Really,
it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So many guys involved now, and so many guys who are brilliant writers, so much better writers than me.
Yeah, I don't write. Have you noticed that? I just don't write anymore. I don't do video blogs anymore. I got so busy. But I just do video blogs because it means I don't have to write down what I talk, because I talk such bollocks. It's better when you do that out loud, and you can get away with swearing on that without. You don't write it down. It's kind of set in stone.
It's just there. You can't get away with it. It's can't get away with it when it's written down.
And it's evidence against you. I suppose if you record it as a video, it also doesn't help. But but no, I think the team is brilliant, and I think people listening to this, all three of them, will agree. It's,
You were hoping for 3, were you?
I was going there. Well, me and you are too, John. So
that's very true. Very true.
So Jerome will be enjoying it.
Well, he will, Jerome.
I just gave him a shout out. I can't believe it. I don't even know why. God, he's gonna be loving it now. Let's just take the piss out of him instead.
You don't really need to.
No, for those who didn't know, Jerome actually came over to England and met me and John in the time that we were off air. So we're allowed to give him stick now, because he was actually over here, and he keeps giving stick towards Ipswich now, which obviously John doesn't agree with.
He's a terrible human being.
I know. I mean, John and his sister, who is also his mother, don't agree with that. So
I will end you, Dan Bigmead. I will end you.
Oh, it's a good job. Your mum is lovely, and I don't mean that, because John
there you go.
Lovely.
Plug to my mother.
I know. It's great. But no, I'm going to move on. What the hell happened then?
Moving on. Let's get back to MLS UK.
Writers. Yeah, no, I think our writers are fantastic. And as I say, they're really helping the site from our point of view. And just generally, I think people are starting to get a lot more, like I go on the site. Obviously, I do edit the thing, but I read through everything, and not just because I have to, but I like, I really enjoy reading through the articles we're getting in now, and we've got some really different styles of writing on the site, and
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we've got some angry Scottish ramblings. We've got some, you know, really creative and different writing from, you know, people like Tim and others who, you know, just write a really sort of kooky different style. And then you've got others that are doing more sort of set match reports and updates on how they find the game. And I think the diversity in the actual site is brilliant. And I think that's certainly helping its growth, and also people, you know, are wanting to, and like you say, it's a community now. It's really good. You know, we all have banter between each other, and it's just, I think it's it's a really good place to be at on the site, and you know, it's really fun to be involved with, obviously.
It's fantastic, yeah, and obviously having the Twitter and Facebook accounts, and everyone can get in touch and have a laugh. It's fantastic, yeah. Really enjoying this season, and the rate at which MLS UK has expanded this season has been fantastic, and we can only thank everyone who reads and gets in touch and stuff for helping us with that. It's been brilliant.
Yeah, it's been fantastic. And moving along, as you were mentioning Twitter and Facebook, and we opened our conversation up to others who wanted to ask us questions.
We did, yeah,
and
we did.
Ironically, no one asked us, you know, like, what's John's shoe size or things like that. It was all actual serious questions they wanted to discuss, which is a shame because we don't know anything. We just we often just make stuff up. But now we've got to actually really talk about proper things, John. What are we going to do?
So, yeah, I mean, no, we've had some brilliant questions, haven't we? Really, to go through. So I'm excited to do this. I don't know what you want to start with, Dan.
Oh well, you know, John, I'm going to let you take it, John. Just you start with what you think's your favourite question.
My favourite question. Oh. My God. Well, actually.
Well, tell you what, John. If you're starting, you may as well start with the double penetration question.
The double penetration. Do you want to start with the double penetration? Okay.
I think for your benefit, you should start with double penetration because we know you are a big fan.
Well, I am a big fan of this DP, and it's we're obviously the Revs have signed. For those who don't know, the Revs have signed a new DP called Jerry Bankston, and our guy, my friend Andrew Shirley, Sherlack01 on Twitter, he's asked if we can talk about the new DP and everything. So I'm happy to do that. Obviously, Dan, I don't know how much knowledge you have of this fine young person.
I've got loads, but I think it's probably just your market. I think I'm obviously really in the know with the Revs stuff, but I'd just suggest it's probably more your field, really. I'll let you handle this one.
The airwaves, mate. So if you want to,
No, I totally. It's all yours, mate. All yours.
Well, no, basically, to go over really, the guy's fantastic. I only know a limited amount about him. Obviously, I was on holiday last week, and I came back on Wednesday to do some work for a client, and I suddenly found out that all this stuff had been going on. We were on the verge of signing a new DP, and this guy is fantastic. I mean, after Wikipediaing him, that was my first source of info when I got back.
You know his star sign then as well.
So yeah, I'm there. He's Gemini, all that kind of stuff. But no, the guy is just a goal scoring machine from what I've seen and read of him so far. He's a Honduran footballer. He's over 6 foot. He's 25 years old. He's built like a brick outhouse.
That's not the term I'd have used, but similar. So.
Keep the words clean there. He's won 3 top goal scorer awards since like 2009. And he's literally, I'm writing a bit about him in my new article, but he's scored in almost like 50% of the games he's played in since he started playing professional football. So nice. The guy is just a goal scoring machine. And obviously he's now at the Revs, and he scored in his debut as well. He came off the bench and scored what was essentially a tap-in from some fantastic sides.
Yeah, they all count.
Well, exactly, as I was saying on the evening, people were saying, well, it wasn't much of a goal, but, it was still the second goal and helped us win 2-0. So I can't complain about it at all, really, and it was a great way for him to introduce himself to the home crowd. So I'm really excited about seeing him play some more, and obviously we've had the signing of Saya Sen this season as well, who's been a fantastic forward. So I'm hoping that this guy is, the second, he's basically a similar size and a similar build, and from what I've heard, he's a similar ability. So it sounds like we've signed Saya Sen the second.
That's good.
That's a lot of s in there, and so hopefully we're away there with the second strike.
Well, John, I'll adapt the question slightly for a more general view as well, because obviously Revs, again, my knowledge is really extensive, but haven't had a DP for the last couple of seasons.
And then out of
And
nowhere,
then now they've got one. I mean, the obvious question is, I mean, you look at teams like LA, have got shed loads of them and still do nothing with it. But how important do you think a DP, can actually be to a club?
honestly, I used to think not that much importance. Really, that would have been my opinion of the last season. But this season, obviously, we signed Showery Joseph up to a new contract, so he was now a DP. Obviously, we've been bringing guys in. Obviously, Jerry's the newest DP. So I think, honestly, like it has changed the landscape of the Revs a little bit. And obviously, you can see in the second half of the season, they are really beginning to pick up, and they did have a far better start to the season than last time around. So for me, from my personal perspective of the Revs, I think like they are vitally important. But then obviously when you look up to people like David Beckham for LA, I kind of feel like the DP status over there is essentially I can do what I want because I'm the star here. I'm getting paid millions, and like we were saying off air before this, David Beckham was at Wimbledon watching Andy Murray in the final. Then he was over at the royal wedding instead of playing games and training. He just seems to be off wandering the world doing what the hell he wants.
Yeah. Well,
Because he's David Beckham.
for those in America, as I've seen a lot of videos, it's actually for the Americans it's Wimbledon because they apparently can't say Wimbledon on American news. So just for those who are familiar with American news shows, it's Wimbledon. So.
There we go. Everyone knows now what we're talking about. But to answer the question, I think they are very important. But I think it's probably for the smaller clubs. I think the DPs are very important because obviously, if you bring in a guy who hasn't got a massive ego, like we've just brought in Jerry, or we've got like Shelby Joseph there, guys who they're well-known players in MLS, but outside of MLS, they're not big names.
Mm-hmm.
However, they are probably the higher standard of player in the MLS.
Yeah.
So if you can get them on a better contract, get them interested, get them into MLS, then they will do well for your team. Whereas I think like it's the guys who are coming in like David Beckham and they're just looking for a kind of a paycheck to end their career.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe not as interested as they once were. Those kind of guys I think are dangerous to have as DPs. So I think it's definitely about getting the younger guys from Europe and other countries to go over to MLS and really give it a go and put them on a higher contract. And I think teams like Columbus, like Toronto, like New England can really, do well with those kind of players and storm up the league and really turn the league on its head and say, hey, you don't have to bring in these guys with these huge egos at the end of their careers. You can bring in a younger guy who is just of a better standard, a slightly better standard, and he will make all the difference to your team.
Yeah, and what I mean, because obviously there's sort of two types of DP, and I don't mean in the two double entendre way. I mean in the still same conversation. I mean, because obviously with Revs they've actually done it both ways. What do you think the difference is for the club and for the player? Like Showery Joseph, who is now a DP, but hasn't been before, but has been at the same club for a while, and has been the best player in that club for a while, and then becomes a DP from not being one. Do you think that makes a bigger difference? Do you think it actually makes a difference to the club, or is it just maybe a difference to the player slightly?
I think it adds a whole new dimension for me. Like, obviously, it was talked about a lot in the off season about Showery going to the DP, and obviously for me it was like he's been captain fantastic, really, from what I've seen of him and from what I know before I became an MLS fan.
Yeah,
he's always been a great captain and a standout guy, and to reward him, I think, for his commitment to the team with that DP position, give him more money, give him that little bit more responsibility, I think, with New England. Whereas now people expect more from him because he's got that place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think personally from that, it's almost like a reward, and it's given a better bond between him and the club and him and the fans. And to be honest, I mean, he has been a bit suspect this year, but I think it is just because of his age. I think he has lost some of his pace.
Yeah.
But for me, I just think like it was a nice reward for him, and obviously it brings the best out in him, and he's now committed to the side even more than he already was, and he's now obligated almost to put in more effort, because we know that he's been given a large raise and he's been given more responsibility. So, we expect a lot more from him now, and I think it's nice. It's a nice internal move, I think, to do that for him.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move on though, because we've just talked an awful lot about Revs. A little bit.
I was going to say,
a little bit of a long time for that.
General MLS stuff.
Yeah. So we'll move on to another question. I just think that actually who they all came through from. I haven't written that down because I'm an idiot. But
yeah, no, we've got this question that's come in from my friend Twigster, at TwigsterMOT on Twitter, who wants to ask us about basically players coming over to England from the MLS, and more critically, why some of them haven't been as successful, and why we think that is.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is one we discussed beforehand, and we had discussion. We were doing that thing where you have to list players, from MLS who have come over and done either well or not well. And the thing was, when from our end, certainly, in England or in Britain, you don't really notice players come over unless they're good. You look at players like Brad Friedel, who obviously came over in '96, I think, but has been, a standpoint of the Premier League since then. You look at people like Donovan, who, obviously came over for Everton for a bit and was good, obviously went back. And Dempsey, obviously, who is now, the highest goal-scoring American outside of US or something, isn't it?
He's the highest scoring American in Premier League history.
That's the one. There you go. And you look at other Americans who are over there who've done well, and we see those more than we see somebody who comes over and does nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's like in mainstream media in the UK. I think the thing is that you look at US players and everything is about people like Donovan who've come over and really changed the landscape of the game. And so for us, I think definitely from what we know of American players over here, it's been more positive, because the ones that you do hear about definitely make more of an impact, and that's why you hear about them, because nobody really talks about those who've come over and failed.
But I think the other thing as well is because of, you don't like to say it, but obviously because there's a class difference between the MLS and the Premiership. A lot of American players obviously will go from the MLS to League One, to Championship, and they'll play there. And obviously mainstream media, unless they're your club, like Robbie Rogers has gone to Leeds now. He hasn't had a good season because he got concussion and all that sort of thing. But if Robbie Rogers does well at Leeds and then becomes a Premiership player by getting signed, he will be a Leeds player. He'll be known as ex-Leeds. So he suddenly, as soon as he does well in Leeds, he will then become a Leeds player and he'll lose that MLS connection.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So the press won't be, here's Robbie Rogers from MLS. They'll be, here's Robbie Rogers from Leeds. Yeah, and he will become a good sort of Leeds prospect rather than being an MLS prospect, which is another side that you kind of lose, which is difficult, but...
Well, this is the fact that I find now with Clint Dempsey. The thing is, people rave about him in the Premier League. They watch Match of the Day on a Saturday evening and they say, oh, that guy's brilliant. He's fantastic, isn't he? An American chap. And you go, yeah, do you know the team that he came from? And everyone's like, some rubbish team in America, and you sort of say, well, New England.
They bang on them, weren't they? Some rubbish team in America. That's exactly summarised.
Thanks, mate. Thanks, mate.
Sorry, buddy.
But he's come from there. He's a real legend over there, and people over here have no appreciation. And he's never introduced as Clint Dempsey formerly from New England Revolution. It's either Clint Dempsey American.
Or Clint Dempsey of Fulham.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, especially now with all these stories about him being linked with Liverpool, going over to Liverpool, there's just not a lot. There's not as much as I'd like to see about Major League Soccer, So it's like, it's a horrible fact that MLS is kind of overlooked as soon as players come over here. As you say, and it's kind of, if they do well, they do really well, and the whole history between them and the MLS is just forgotten by the English and British media.
And if they do badly, they just kind of disappear back off to America and no one even knows about them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nobody has any idea who they are. They either fall back into League 1 or 2 and vanish, or they just go straight back to America and nobody really cares.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me, is like the ones who are successful, everyone knows about them. And so the success rate for MLS, really, I don't think is that bad. But then obviously, how many have we personally not heard of, and how many of the rest of Britain not heard of, who have come over and not really done anything? And it's interesting. Obviously, I did an interview with New England Revolution's Ryan Guy earlier in the season, and he was talking about, obviously, when he finished college over there, came over here, and he wanted to play for a team in England, and he just couldn't get anywhere because of all the dilemmas with his passport and playing over here, etc. So the only place he could go was Ireland. So he ended up playing in Ireland for a few years before going back to America and signing for New England. And I thought that was very interesting, that whole thing of, obviously, the really standout players in MLS get snapped up by English teams and they suddenly can play over here. But then obviously some guys want to come over here and can't for various different reasons. But it's just the wielding might of Premier League football. I think you can pretty much sign whoever you want these days.
Well, I mean, the thing is that it's all about work visas, isn't it?
Yes.
And when they come over for some little club, they have to prove that they're going to be working. Whereas if it's a Man United go, we want so and so from the MLS, that's proof of work. You're going to be earning a shed ton, So it kind of works in that way. Whereas if you're going for West Nobody Albion or something, then they're not going to be it's not quite as easy to get a work permit. But those are all sorts of ridiculous things, aren't they? Work permits and stuff.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, no, I think it's one of those things, isn't it? You either, like I say, we're kind of a little bit naive against it, I suppose, in the fact that we don't really notice them when they don't do very well. So we're kind of, it's a bit of a difficult one to answer that. But I hope we answered it, kind of.
Yeah, the way that I would answer that to Twigs is just to say, in my opinion, players when they come over here are the few that do make it over, I feel are almost always successful from what we've seen. Obviously, it's the media and stuff, and obviously since running MLS UK, we've started to notice a lot more American players coming over here. And obviously, you've had people recently like Tim Ream coming over. But I honestly don't think there's like a massive failure rate for American players in the UK.
No, not at all.
In my opinion.
No, I would second that notion. But right, we'll move on to our third question of currently 4, unless any come flying in while we're recording this. This is from somebody called Stephen Clark.
Stephen Clark, he sounds familiar.
No, I don't know. He sounds like a douche. But that is, of course,
Stephen Clark had to say.
He has said at ClarkyBoy72, by the way, in case you need to know his Twitter if you can't read it somewhere else. I've lost myself completely just then, sorry. He has asked why MLS won't allow access to live streaming in the UK. NFL, MLB allow it, and it would make my job easier. I don't know what his job must be, but apparently it relies on MLS. So, yeah, that's the question, really. I'll summarise. Is why MLS has no access, no UK access, and, I assume our opinions on that.
There you go. You see, I think that's probably one of the best questions we've had. So,
yeah.
Because we were always moaning about this, weren't we, Dan? You did an article at the beginning of this season telling people where they could find links to games, because you just, in England, in Scotland, in Wales, in Ireland, in everywhere apart from America and Canada, it is almost impossible to watch the MLS.
Yep.
And no matter how many times people tweet to Major League Soccer and say, hey, how can I see a game from the UK? I'm a big fan. I just want to watch my team. And they always say, oh yeah, you can catch games on various things. What's the site that they always quote?
Oh yeah, it's livesport.tv or whatever it is.
livesport.tv.
Is that the one? And it's just when they say, "Oh yeah, use this," it's like, okay, good. It's got 3 games on, and when you go to click on it, it says not available in your area. I don't know if that just means don't like London. Sorry, mate, no Londoners. It's like that. It's just ridiculous. You can't. The thing is, I don't know if they have any way of checking themselves, or they just assume that that's okay. They're like, oh yeah, they've got some games.
Yeah, I just think they must obviously have given this contract or whatever to this site and said, yeah, whatever, you can have the streaming rights.
Yeah, you can have 3 games a week.
The site is either just not fulfilling what they said they'd do, or there's problems there and they're just not aware of them. I'm not entirely sure, but for me, it would just be so much simpler. And as Stephen has said in his question, he said obviously the NFL and Major League Baseball, they both allow streamed games to come over to the UK. You pay the online fee, the same as everyone else in America and Canada, and you can watch these games.
It's the thing,
I've done it personally with Major League Baseball. I've had a subscription there. It was great. You stream the game, you watch the game, no problem.
Yeah.
I don't understand why Major League Soccer can't just have the same availability for the UK. Overall, how much can it cost?
Exactly. It's MLS Live is already doing everything. It covers every single game. Every game. Why? I mean, I'm not a technical person in terms of that sort of thing. I can't imagine it makes a massive amount of difference to just open that up to UK and UK and Ireland. It doesn't make sense that it's so difficult for them. I can't understand the financial implications.
With when you can Skype someone in Australia via the internet,
and it costs you nothing.
I find it hard to believe that the MLS won't stream a game to England via an internet connection. I just find that insanely hard to believe. All the things that you can do these days. We're curing cancer, and yet we can't watch New England or Columbus play on a computer.
I know. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very frustrating. And then obviously for guys like us who write and blog and talk and all that about the MLS and our teams, and we can't watch the games, or if we do, they're on some pixelated, terrible stream that we've obtained by some other means.
Yeah.
And it's very depressing almost that you put on all this time and effort to follow the league, to get involved with the communities, and it just feels like they don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, not obviously the communities themselves. I mean, the thing for me as well is it's one of the massive stumbling blocks when you're trying to convince someone to get involved and start watching and getting involved in MLS and that sort of thing. And you're saying, oh yeah, you can get the game online. It happens with NFL and MLB, as we've said. They've got it. They're still playing at the same sorts of times. You're still watching them at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, that sort of time.
Yeah.
Over here, but you're able to, and people do because they can. Whereas you talk to people about MLS and you go, oh no, honestly, it's a really good, really up and coming league. It's really exciting football. The teams are really growing, that sort of thing. And they go, oh yeah, how can I watch it? And they go, well, you have to get, search for a feed for half an hour. So you'll miss the first half an hour of the game, but I promise you the second half it will be great once you've got a feed. But it might drop out and you'll have to go and find another feed. So they're like, so is there nowhere for you to actually watch it? Well, no, because they actually don't let us outside of US and Canada and Mexico, wherever else it is. You just can't, and it really causes a stumbling block, which is really frustrating because you're trying to bring people into this really exciting league, and the league itself is actually causing problems for its own growth.
Exactly. Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Completely agree. And I mean, the easiest way, and obviously we found this out last season, the easiest way to watch a game legally in the UK is to sign up to bet365.com.
Yeah.
And they have the same streams that obviously this other website is allegedly supposed to have every time. But obviously
they actually have them.
Betting website.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous that you have to go. I mean, they have three games on usually a week, and it is often one of them is going to be LA or New York, but you will still get like the Columbus Red Bull game, Columbus and Revs games. You will get that every now and again. But the thing is, obviously, with that, it does come up on a small screen of a betting play. You have to put £5 into an account, which you can choose to bet or not if you want to. It's completely up to you, obviously. Speak to George Dempsey first, though, obviously. Look at that, plug straight for a writer.
There you go.
Nailed it.
Dempsey's articles.
So yeah, I mean, But you've got a small screen, so if you're on a Mac, you can just zoom in. I don't know if you can do it on PCs. I don't use them anymore. So you can scroll in. It's a decent feed. It's consistent. You'll get whatever the main network commentary is, and it's a good feed. But the problem is they again only have 3 games. It's just ridiculous. MLS Live. I just don't understand why you can't use it. It just doesn't make sense to me. It makes me frustrated, really, that you have to spend this time on. I mean, I know myself and John have got very consistent connections with, not connections, but we use the same site every time pretty much, and we're usually fine. Obviously, I'm not really right for us to say over here because it isn't technically legal. So we'll leave that. You have to find it, or just ask us quietly in a back corner, and we'll pass it to you on a backhanded piece of paper. But it's just frustrating, as I say. That's the main issue I have with that. Is it's just I just think it's a case of them shooting themselves in the foot. Really, they aren't helping themselves grow when they're saying they want to grow and stuff. It's just a bit annoying that that's the case, that you can't watch games when you want to. Really.
I feel as though you could have sorted this when you were in America, Dan, really.
I've tried, man.
Obviously, you met the commish. You were there, he was there. You could have just said, oi, look.
I did ask him about, their thoughts of growth towards outside, and he's just still aiming on... I mean, the thing is, it's difficult for them. I do understand that, because of the fact that America is such a large country, and it's still not... It's a big sport now, but it's still not a massive sport in America. And that's, I think, their first aim, is to make it an NFL in America, to be able to sell out, 150,000 seater stadiums every game day, like NFL and, college football does.
And I think, as it should be, quite rightly, they should concentrate on that. I just feel like the thing that worries me is that I feel like they're ignoring almost their fan base. Obviously, we know through blogging that obviously there is a large fan base, and you've got other people such as like MLS Norway.
Yeah, I was just
who are there, and they're lovely guys.
Yeah, very good guys.
And they're there, they're with us trying to watch this league, and there are obviously people in Europe and across the world who are trying to watch this league, and we're being ignored by the MLS. And like we said before, how hard can it really be to let us see some games?
Exactly.
And then they'd get more revenue from us, even if there's not millions of us. There's even if there's a few hundred of us, it still would be worth their while I would have thought, to get our money. But there you go.
Yeah, it's frustrating, as we say. But we, alas, we shall move on to the last of our questions for today. And this comes from @Egan88UK. And he's asked...
Suspicious Twitter name.
I know it does. He's asked about that dude who covers the Galaxy on your site. And I feel like we should tell this guy. We've actually just recently fired our LA Galaxy writer. So that spot's opened up now. So unfortunately, the guy we used to have, he just put too many expletives in his writing, and it was very blasphemic, and we just couldn't have it. So we've recently fired that guy. I think his name was Chris. We just fired him.
Chris Egghead?
Chris. I think it's Egan. I think that's how you say it. Chris Egan. I think that's how you pronounce it. So unfortunately,
far too many stupid Twitter questions.
Oh, exactly. So unfortunately, @Egan88UK, we don't have an LA Galaxy writer anymore. So so thank you for your question anyway. But obviously that'll be fine. So yeah, next thing, we're going to move on now from the questions. That is our question section done. I feel like there should have been music there.
Thank you everyone for the questions.
I know, brilliant. Yes, thank you very much. And of course, if you do have any questions you want to ask us for next podcast, which of course will be in 3 months, we are hoping again to get back more regular with this. We do sincerely apologise for the fact that we have taken ages before coming back to do another podcast, but as we have both said, we are horrendously busy, other normal personal lives. So we will try. We promise we'll do better for you, because we know, that you are all paying for these 2-hour-long podcasts that we do. So
yes, yeah, indeed.
So thank you very much for waiting, and hopefully you are still watching these and listening to these. So we will. I do promise we will try and be more regular with these. And if we are more regular, they might actually get to be shorter as well, which might help everyone. So yeah. So John, I mean, as we say, we're as I said, we are hoping to be more regular. But what's to come for MLS UK?
What's to come, my friend? There's a lot of things to come. It's a very exciting time in our lives. I kind of feel like Fight Club right now.
Oh, it's inspiring.
Where Edward Norton turns and says, "You met me at a very strange time in my life." There are lots of things going on with MLS UK. It's crazy. Obviously, like me and you are working full time and then running this as well. And I mean, just name a few of the things that we're up to, Dan.
Oh, well, we are currently in the procedure of coming up with our Fantasy League prize. Of course, if you aren't in it, you can technically still join the league, but you will be about 1,000 points behind everyone else. But you can still join, and you may be in the running of a booby prize, if we're doing a booby prize. We probably won't, because we haven't got much money, and we're running this site on our own, so it might not be. But we are going to come up with a Fantasy League prize, so we want everyone's not requests. It's not like a shopping list. We want suggestions, is the word I meant. We want suggestions for what people want for the Fantasy League prize. We're thinking something quintessentially British. So we could be doing Scottish. We could go for haggis. We could send a care package. But we want some suggestions with what you guys think we should have for this Fantasy League prize. And of course, the other thing we're doing is for people in England and the UK, if they can, travel, is we are going to do an MLS Cup final party. Isn't that right, Jonathan?
Yeah, we are. We're very, very excited about this. This was a concept that me and Dan were talking about a while ago. We weren't sure whether it would come to fruition. It's kind of looking more promising now than not, but it's in the process of being worked out right now.
We found a lovely bar in London, which is actually plays a lot of American sports. So we're hoping to enter into negotiation with them to see if we can sort out a cup final night. And if we can get them to open up, hold our event. If not, we're going to find alternatives. But we are looking to get that up. So people who are in the UK, we're going to be blogging about it more and more towards the time. Obviously, it's quite a way away yet, but we will be doing that and hopefully have that event. If not, it's going to be in John's kitchen. So that'll be good. Everyone around John's.
It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a great time.
But
I'll make homemade bread. It'll be amazing.
It'll be great. Homemade bread and homemade beer. Homemade wine. Don't you make homemade wine? Don't you? That's the one. Homemade wine.
Oh yeah, homemade wine. We can serve some of that up.
Parker's Preserves.
There you go. Parker's Preserves. That's what it's all about.
Although that sounds like jam. But anyway, we don't want to talk about your jam. That would be disgusting.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about what's to come.
Yeah, no. Oh, Jesus. It's all got out of hand, John. Let's just stop now. The other thing, of course, is we have currently our beautifully, softly spoken and gentle Scottish writer is actually going on holiday for a couple of weeks. So just so people who are Chivas fans.
Okay, I'll be away for a few weeks.
So there's a pirate to tell you that the Scottish guy's away, which is nice.
That was my best attempt.
John's voice acting. I can only do a Scottish accent if I swear a lot, so I can't. They get dirty English. Something's it's difficult. But yeah, so Andy is on holiday, so he won't be doing any Chivas unless he can, which he probably can't, because let's be honest, it's difficult to do it when you're on holiday. So Chivas will be a shorter writer. So I know everyone's distraught about that, which so are we, because we love Andy's stuff. So he'll be away for a couple of weeks, and then he'll be back writing double because we're going to get him to do overtime. Go on holiday and we make you work extra hard.
Bring him to a desk and make him write.
Exactly. You were very quiet then, John. I've got to be honest. I'll have to try and boost you. But yeah, the other thing we want to talk about, John, is bringing on some more new writers if we can.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I feel like it's finally time that we plug that via the podcast. We're really looking to expand the site as much as possible, and unfortunately, we've had some writers this year. Some haven't been able to contribute as much, but we are still always looking for English fans who want to get involved, who want to write, no matter how much they want to write, no matter how much experience you've got, no matter what you think of the league. Obviously, it'd be preferable if you liked it.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
But, if you want to come along, if you're a rookie and you don't know much about the league, but you want to get involved, then by all means email us. If you've been following it for 30 years and you want to write some in-depth articles, then go for that as well. we are easy peasy.
Yep.
We just want to get as many people involved as
of
possible.
course, the only T's and C's are, of course, that you are, in fact, British or of British origin. You can be an expat, but you have to be British. So that's the only terms and conditions we do apply. We're not going to do a long list of reeling off ones in really fastly spoken words so you don't hear them. That is the only ones, I promise. That and you have to send us a naked photo. What?
If you can actually write.
Yeah, reading and writing are not as fun as fighting, but we will. That's a Columbus Crew.
I was going to say that sounds like a Columbus Crew mantra, right?
That is. But yeah, no. So reading and writing skills are approved, and that sort of thing is always good. But yeah, so we'll hopefully, if you want to get in touch, of course, you can email us at MLS_UK at. What? At MLS_UK is how you can do it on Twitter. Or send us an email, which is MLS_UK at hotmail.co.uk. So I got completely lost.
There in the end. Well done.
I know, we're a team. That's what we're here for. So yeah, of course you can do that. Drop us an email, drop us a Twitter. Email's probably preferable for that. So send us that and we will get back to you and hopefully get you involved in the team. We will obviously do a small background check and you will be required to send us a fully nude, full frontal picture so we can judge you. But other than that, it'll be good. So moving swiftly on from mild full frontal nudity to full frontal shocks is the word I was going to use. It really wasn't as dramatic as I hoped. Which is, of course, we can't go a full hour and a half without talking about the 2012 MLS All-Star First 11.
There we go. It's been said it's out there now. It's out there. It was released, and now everyone knows that it's going down. The All-Star game is on, and what can we say about the squad selection, really, Dan? I mean, there was absolute uproar on Twitter. We really didn't want to wade too heavily into it. But it's out there now, and we've got to comment on it, really.
Yeah, of course we do. I mean, I've got to start, of course, as a Columbus Crew fan, and as you will have seen, there was massive uproar from Columbus and other people, not just from Columbus, Crew fans from everywhere else, but no, other people who aren't Crew fans, in the fact that Andy Greenenbaum, however the commentator wants to say it at the time, is not the goalkeeper. He's not in the starting 11 or the first 11. He may still make the bench, but that he's not in the first 11, which is, I think, disrespectful. Because, I mean, that man, considering he was a backup keeper and has had to come in due to an injury and he has been stunning. He's got the second highest, or the second lowest goals conceded, I think, is, I can't remember the stat that I heard the other day, but he has got the second best record as a goalkeeper this season. Of course, Jimmy Nielsen for Sporting Kansas City is not a bad choice, but just as a Crew fan, I think, considering the season he's had, and the fact that he is just generally, I think he deserves it because of how much he's been as a reserve goalkeeper, that sort of thing. I think it's a shame that Greenenbaum hasn't actually made that first 11.
Well, I mean, the thing that you really have to look at here is, I mean, I agree with you there, Dan, is that there are some guys out there who thoroughly deserve a place in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I
definitely
agree.
The guys who are there, and I mean, obviously, the main one for me would be, obviously, Revs have got the striker Saya Sen, we've got Lee Wynn in midfield, and, they didn't really seem to go anywhere. But then, obviously, you look at the guys who have been selected.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Saya Sen and Lee Wynn is they don't have underwear brands. And it's difficult to get into a first 11 for your footballing talent without an underwear brand or some previous connection to a big club. I mean, like we mentioned, there's one player who's been out virtually all season and is now in the starting 11 for MLS All-Star starting 11, which is, of course, Thierry Henry. Which he's an unarguable talent, but he's been out most of the season. He's not, it seems ridiculous that strikers have been playing all season, hammering him in left, right and centre, and have not got in the squad because he's Thierry Henry. It's an MLS All-Star 11. It's supposed to be the best players in the MLS of the season at that point.
Yeah,
And that,
exactly.
unfortunately, is not Thierry Henry at the moment. And why is that man in the side? And I mean, there's two other obviously obvious ones that we obviously have an issue with, which is of course Underwear Beckham, who I can't argue with him. He is a very sexy man, but their LA Galaxy really probably shouldn't have any players in this team because of the way they've been playing so far. But they've got two, so it's just.
Really shouldn't. I mean, the thing is, Landon Donovan, obviously Mr. America.
Yeah, he is Captain America.
So he was always going to get in there, or just sheerly on his popularity alone.
Yeah.
And David Beckham, I just don't get why Beckham's in there. I really don't. And obviously, this is stern words coming from two British guys.
Yeah, no, we love Beckham. We love everything about Beckham, but he just doesn't deserve to be in the squad.
Yeah,
like
does
I
he
say,
deserve to be there? No, he doesn't. I mean, he was, as we were saying before the game, he was at Wimbledon. He was at the Royal Wedding rather than playing in the MLS.
Yeah.
And if you really want to reward someone for their hard work and their effort in the MLS, then it really wouldn't be David Beckham.
Yeah, no, definitely
to be
not.
completely honest.
I mean, like we say, there are players, like Graham Zusi has had a good season, a very good season. And Wondolowski is always very consistent and has had a very, very good season this year. So there are definitely players on there who have made it on there in their own merit. But it's just a shame that it gets almost polluted with these, big name players and that sort of thing. But I mean, that's essentially what the MLS All-Star game is, isn't it, really? It's, look what players the MLS has got. Here's Beckham, here's Donovan, here's Henry. It's surprising that all the big money DPs haven't just made the squad, really, for the sake of them being big money DPs.
Well, exactly.
I mean, but Kyle Berkerman, is it Berkerman or Beckerman? I always get it wrong. I think it's
Beckerman. Yeah,
Berkerman. Beckerman, that's the one. He's a consistently strong midfielder and is not on this. And he is easily one of RSL's best players.
Oh,
but
definitely.
I mean, this is only the first 11. There is obviously going to be 32 in the squad. But I mean, it's just the first 11 is a bit uninspiring, and it is a little bit like X Factor. Who's got?
I'm glad. I'm proud to see Di Rosario in there. I'm glad to see Jay Barrett in there, and obviously Wondolowski as well. He's had a great season. But the thing is, I just kind of feel like it's tainted a little bit because it isn't the MLS All-Star first 11. It's kind of like a mix of.
It's the MLS X Factor first 11.
But so here's some guys who are really popular and who everyone likes. And it's kind of, I don't know whether this is more because people who were voting on MLS.com were just like, oh, let's just pick out the best names. And so they were actually voting on performance in the season, or I don't know whether this is actually rigged and it's just been set up like this. I don't really know what it is, but it is a very odd squad. And obviously the feedback from Twitter was just everyone saying how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, unless it was rigged, then this has actually been voted for. And so there are either some very naive people out there.
I mean, I think the thing with...
They just want to see Beckham, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing with the public voting is, I mean, there's a lot of, not saying it's the majority, but I mean, there's a lot of people who obviously support MLS and are looking at their squad. And then they pick their squad, and then they have to pick other players, and they think, oh, who's good? Oh, yeah, Beckham's good. Oh, Henry's good. Yeah, that Donovan's Captain America. He's good. And they do that sort of thing where you have that. And I mean, Di Rosario is one of those. I mean, Di Rosario is very good, and he has had a very good season. But I mean, he's one of the names that you kind of look at and go, oh yeah, Di Rosario. I kind of, I know he's quite good. I'll just tick him off. And it's one of those things where after you voted for all the team that you support, you go and then think, right, who else can I vote for?
Yeah.
And you suddenly think, oh, big names. But, I mean, there's so many players that... I mean, I think once we see the 32, it'll be interesting to see who's left and who's made it in there as well. But, alas, what can we do now? We just watch the game and hope that Chelsea get thumped.
But, I mean, the one thing that I do take away from this is, obviously, for me... New England fans, and obviously, as a Columbus fan, you'll have to appreciate the fact that if your players aren't there and they aren't in the starting 11, there's no chance they can get injured.
Yeah.
What is basically an entirely pointless game.
I mean, the thing that always winds me up about these sorts of things is I know it's basically a let's raise the profile of the league sort of game, but it doesn't help because the MLS All-Star 11 always gets thumped because they're a group of players who play against each other every single week, and then they get like one day of training together, and then they play against Chelsea, or then they play against Man United. Man United have won the last three, wasn't it? And they've outscored them like 11-1 or something. Yeah. It's like this is a team that is not a team. It's like watching the Dutch in the World Cup. That's these may be good players and they may be considered the best in the MLS, but they don't know each other and they don't play with each other. So they're never going to be as good as Chelsea or Man United because these players are good and they play together and train together every week.
Well, the thing for me really is about the MLS is what would be more beneficial to the league is I think if you had Eastern Conference versus Western Conference in the MLS All-Star game, winner takes home field advantage for their conference in the MLS Cup final. For me, it's what Major League Baseball do. It's just I think that would work out a lot more beneficial. Then you wouldn't have to bring another team in that would absolutely thrash the All-Star 11 and make them look stupid. You wouldn't have any of that. So for me, that would be a lot more beneficial. I think it'd be a lot more interesting as well because people would actually take an interest instead of what's happened this week where people just dismiss it and say, well, actually, I'm glad my players aren't in it because they're not getting injured and I don't really care about it anyway. So for me, at the moment, a lot of people just call it a pointless game and it is quite a pointless game really at this stage in the season.
I mean, that's the thing as well, as it's so disturbing in the middle of the season. I mean, that's one of the things about the MLS, which is a little bit weird, which is the mid-season, pre-season friendlies. It's just, I mean, like, Columbus Crew have got Stoke, which is obviously going to be a fun game. They're going to get a load of legs broken from Columbus Crew. It's going to be good for them. While Shawcross breaks as many legs as he can in America. He's like a personal target for himself. But, they come... Football, English clubs come to America, which is great because it's really good appreciation for the league. And that sort of thing, but they come over in their pre-season, and then MLS clubs have to face them midway through their own season, and they've not got, it's just random game in the middle of it, and it just interrupts everything, and it's just all a bit weird. I mean, I agree with what you're saying about the East v West sort of thing. The only problem is, obviously, again, the reason they do this whole debacle thing is the fact that they do it for the international recognition, to try and get that. Which, of course, is difficult. I mean, unless you do an MLS East versus West to do, like you said, and then do the winner of that gets to play Chelsea, which means at least they've played one game together. And they, I mean, it's just the whole thing is when the team doesn't train together, it doesn't play together, does it really? So it's just all a bit ridiculous. But I mean, I think the pre-season tours and stuff help. And if, you get teams beating the English clubs, then that is going to raise the profile. And of course, it's just still a bit weird though, isn't it? I mean, the MLS does some things a bit weird. So, alas, what are we going to do?
Well, I mean, obviously, like the way that they schedule it, I think is with American sports, which is what I've always admired about them, is the fact that you're never without a sport in America. One season for one team ends, and then the next season for another sport begins.
Yeah.
It just goes around a big circle, so there's always some sort of sport on, and I kind of feel like MLS has just tried to fit in around the established sports in America, which obviously it should do because they're trying to appeal to an American audience, but it's also a complete pain in the backside because it just doesn't fit in with any other football around the world.
Yeah.
And obviously when they're trying to attract European attention and European clubs in, then obviously the European clubs are going to want to come in now because it's the end of the season and they're now building their squads again for the next season, and they want to start doing their friendlies now, whereas to MLS it just doesn't suit it at all. And I kind of feel like that success is going to ruin what they've got really. If they're doing this at the midpoint of the season, it just doesn't make any sense. Like you say, it's just interfering really more than anything, but it does bring them more revenue and it gets more attention onto the MLS, and obviously where they are now with their season, they kind of get more attention from an American audience because they are in a kind of a gap between other seasons.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's one of the benefits as a English British fan of MLS is the fact that you get all year round soccer. which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
what you kind of want to do. And I mean, it does help when you want to, when people, because I know a lot of people who just love to watch soccer, love to watch football, So I mean, that's the best time to win people over is when the Premiership season ends, and then you try and go. Oh, by the way, there's MLS. But I mean, it's a bit of a weird one. It's MLS, isn't it? If people just say, "Oh, it's very American," it's like, oh, God.
But there you go. It's a bit of culture, isn't it?
Exactly.
So that's what we like about it.
But yeah, we shall end this now with our 3-hour podcast that we always do. We do promise next time when we do one more recently, hopefully we'll have slightly less. Not hopefully we'll have less to talk about, but hopefully we'll be able to shorten it down because we won't have had such a long gap in between. But yes, of course, you can always get in touch with us here at MLS UK, either individually via @GuitarSpoons, which is John, or @DannyB90, which is me. And you can, of course, contact the site, which is through Facebook, which is just MLS_UK, is it, John?
Yes, it is. I think facebook.com/MLS UK, all one word.
Ah, there you go. I don't know Facebook. It's all a bit beyond my time, John.
I was going to say it's too old for you, mate.
Oh yeah, definitely. And of course, you can find us on Twitter, which is @MLS_UK, and tweet us, mention us, hashtag us. We all love that. And then, of course, you can find us on the emails. A bit of an old-fashioned way of communicating, emailing. That is MLS_UK @hotmail.co.uk. Don't put .com because it won't come through to us. It's .co.uk. And of course, we will look forward to and love to hear from you. Any new writers, remember, email us if you just have a question or something you want us to answer on the next blog. If you think John's hair is really nice, or he's got a great beard, email us, tell us that. Because we are still human. We like to get told we're pretty every now and again. So do feel free to comment and email us that. I hope we get an email just saying, John, your beard is very nice. Right, that is alas the end of our podcast, John. I know. Come on, guys, stop crying. It's all right. We'll be back. We'll be back. I promise, won't we, John? We'll be back, won't we?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Hopefully next year. See you all next year, guys. But yeah, that is, of course, the end. And thank you again for listening. That is a goodbye from me, the Banter Messiah, Danny B, and a goodbye from that man right there.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much again, guys, and we shall see you, hopefully, very, very soon. Goodbye!